Okay, I've got a notification. Now we're live.
Yes.
So, very good afternoon to everyone who's tuned in already and is seeing us live on Facebook. This is yet another episode of Coffee and Childhood. I'm Ritesh Bafna, co-founder of Kids OK Please, and I have two of our panelists here who are going to chat with us and talk to us about the topic that we are continuing from last week, education now and in future. Well, while we are at that and more people have joined in, I'll now introduce both the panelists. Our first panelist is Ginni Nagpal. She's the founder of Being Diva. That's the name of our company. She's a lifestyle influencer, a fashion enthusiast. She's also a mother of two, constantly juggling between work life and motherhood, an entrepreneur, stylist by profession, and an influencer by passion. Welcome to Coffee and Childhood, Ginni. It's an absolute.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
I now want to introduce our second panelist. That's Prerna Sinha. She's an award-winning blogger and founder of Ma of All Blogs and co-founder of Inspire Awards, which is influencer travel and is also an influencer, travel enthusiast, and a certified Astanga yoga coach. Her blog has been rated top blogs over various sites like Social Samosa, Indian Top Blog, influencer, Blogment, and she has also been awarded as one of the top digital power users in India. She speaks on various blogging and parenting forums as an expert. Her inspiration to start a blog and to share her experiences on the blog came when she had to quit her career midway to dwell on the role of motherhood. That's why she is so passionate about the cause of women in the workforce and senior leadership. Through the blog, she works on various social causes for women and kids, like the causes like sex education, women empowerment, and so on. And also believes in training newbie bloggers and nuances of blogging through various steps. She herself is in her second career move. She juggles her job as a full-time blogger with her role as a full-time mother while remaining a student of many self-improvement courses ranging from yoga to kickboxing, running, etc. And before motherhood nudged her into this transition, she spent a decade in the garment industry. Today, as a full-time professional blogger, she has worked with top brands in India like Pampers, Nestle, Cleartrip, Unilever, and so on, covering more than 50 brands in various sectors. And adventure has a magnetic allure for her, whether it is climbing Mount Everest, climbing Everest Base Camp, or running marathons, or walking, 100 kilometers or more. With that, a basic introduction that I could do from my end, I'm gonna ask both my panelists, to quickly talk about themselves and let our audiences know who they are.
Okay. So I think you've given my introduction quite perfect. I recently started influencing because I thought I could make a change positively in the lives of many people. So basically, if you ask me what I am a businessman at the moment. I'm still yet to enter the influencing stream way better. But yeah, so basically I have been styling normal people. I mean, throughout the span of 7 years, I've been styling a lot of normal people. So I get to meet a lot of normal people, and they have a lot of their take on fashion, their take on presenting themselves. How do they look at themselves? How do they? What is their image? What is their first image that they want to put across when they're going places? So I just wanted to take this a little further by influencing and getting onto the social media platform, and because it was one-on-one always, so it was very difficult to keep up with everything. So I just wanted to make this a platform so I could share my knowledge and just put it forth. That's basically me. So that's about it. So I'm just the founder of my own brand, and it's my third baby, and I'm juggling between my 3 babies all the time.
I think, we are very similar in that way. We have 3 babies. So yes, I am a mother to 2 boys, 9 and 14 now. And my third baby is, of course, my brand, which is Mafall Blogs, my blog, or my social media pages. I started it almost 8 years back, and it's taken a lot of passion, grit, and hard work to kind of make a space and stay on it. It's difficult to make a space, and to keep staying high on that space is even more difficult, especially with people, such lovely people who are now entering. And it's amazing because when I started, really there wasn't any, I would say, very few mom bloggers. There weren't even events for mom bloggers. That's when I started. And I would go more for lifestyle events than mom blogging events. And today it's the other way around. Mom bloggers are calling the shots. So that's where I started to where it is now. So that's about my journey. My idea of starting the blog was basically, I had just quit working and I wanted to just talk about what I had gone through in terms of becoming a mother, and what my journey had been. I just wanted to put it all out because as they say, writing is therapy. And when I started writing, I remember a lot of people, I got two kinds of reviews. One was like, it's very colloquial, and when a writer writes, it should be more articulate. And I said, no, this is my way of writing. If I just write, okay, if people want to connect to it, they can. If they don't want to connect to it, it's fine. And then I got another set of people who loved the fact that it was so easy for them to read through what I was writing, and it was coming from personal experience. So they were very, very happy to, and easily they were able to connect, right? Because a lot of times, of course, the language is important, but to make it articulate, sometimes if we just lose out on personal experience. That's what I have seen in my journey. It has worked well, honestly, for me. So that's where it has been, and every day is a learning. So one day we figured, it was all about blogs one day, then suddenly Instagram, it was Facebook and blogs, and Instagram came up. And from a person who never wanted to be short, I was doing videos and shooting, and then now even doing lives. I used to be very worried about lives, because it used to be like, what if I say something wrong? And so it's been a really, really long way from there. And of course, my boys have grown up along this journey, and they also, right now, especially since we're all in a lockdown, they kind of help me shoot, and also be a part of my shoot. So it's become like a thing that we do together almost every second, third day. So that's been my journey, if I would say, in terms of blogging. And yes, you mentioned garment industry, so that's the other thing that's common. I'm a fashion designer by profession, but and I was in the garment industry for almost a decade, after which I quit, and then the blogging journey started. So I think it's a transition that's happening, and somewhere along the line, fitness came in and yoga came in, and when you get into fitness, you want to go deeper into it, and that's how I did my certification, to the point where people have been so motivating and told me you should teach. So from getting a certification to teaching also has been a very long journey, because I did my certification for myself to improve my practice, but now I'm teaching. So yes, it's a very, very, what do I say, expansive journey for me.
Well, it's fascinating to hear about your journey, because it also sends across a very strong message that if one intends to do certain things, they can do it, and there's never the right time to start something new, or probably go through that transition, and that's absolutely possible if you have a very, very good, strong support system around you. So Prerna, my first question to both the panelists is about the support system that exists for your professional space as well as your personal space. Could you tell us about the kind of support system that you have, and who's the most important part of that support system according to you? I'll start with Prerna. I'll move on to Gini asking about the same thing. Yeah.
So when you mentioned support system, honestly, we are a nuclear family, so we didn't really. I mean, initially when I started, I didn't really have anybody. I was doing everything on my own, from shooting to writing to going for events or whatever. Everything was being done on my own. So it took a lot of time, and there were times I've in fact posted in one of the mommy groups, that reality is that we are standing in an event and we are posing for pictures, but actually at the back and it's me with my baby on my shoulder and typing on a laptop. Hair is everywhere. There will be bath on my shoulders. But if you're passionate about something, then you will do, anything to kind of make it work. So for me, I think that has worked. And of course, the fact that when I decided that I want to do it full time, like a profession, so in between, I think in 2010 is when I quit my job. 2010 to 12, I wasn't really looking at professionally doing blogging. I was just writing. 12, I started writing a little more, like getting deeper into it. 15 is when I said I want to take it up professionally. And then I told my husband that I want to do it, and you will at times have to babysit, right? We had help at home, but I would never left my kids alone with the help. So so he initially supported me by coming early from meetings and taking care of the kid, or at least just being around. That gave me the confidence, and basically I also got this whole thing from my parents and in-laws initially, where they said kids are more important, so do it, but do it like only when you have the time. So I said, no, you have to understand that there are timelines and there are brands, and then I have to, if they ask me to do it a particular time, I have to do it, but don't worry, I will manage everything. And then when I showed them that I could manage, and then they saw that I was getting awards and I was being named, and people were coming back to them and saying, your daughter is doing such a great job, or your daughter is doing such a good job. To my husband in his office, people were reading the blogs and telling me that your wife is a great blogger. So when that started happening, I think family comes in later. They support you, but they understand the depth later, especially in a profession like blogging, because it's still not a very defined profession. At least it wasn't when I started out. Now, of course, people are still become more commercial about it, and more they see some ROI from it. When we started out more for passion.
Yeah.
So that has been there. And of course, last 2-3 years, I've hired a team. So my team comes in and we work together, and some of them work virtually as well. As of today, my help and my kids are helping me. They are my support.
So, Gilly, I'm going to come immediately to, asking you about the support system. But Prerna, I want to mention this, that isn't our society, and this is for the larger audience out there, that one, that everyone starts looking at the unconventional jobs or professions as something that it probably doesn't require too much hard work, that being one. Until the time you're not succeeding at it, it's not taken seriously. You feel that you don't have to do anything. I mean, you're just blogging, right? I mean, how much time could it take?
Yeah, what is blogging? You just go to events and talk about a product, and they have no idea how many steps there are behind that, how much of hard work that one 15-second video can take for you. So there's a lot of, it's always like that, unconventional professions. I was a fashion designer before that. So I remember the first time this was like 20 years back, when I first broke the news to my dad that I want to be a fashion designer. He said, what, you want to be a tailor? So I think I have always been offbeat always for my family. So yeah.
No, I think it's very important that, and it's, the good thing is that we're broadening our horizons. We're trying to start looking at it differently. Now moving to Ginny, same question to you. What's been the support system like for you, and where does it all come from? We want to know more about that. Yeah.
So like Prerna said, it came from within her. If you would describe me, I didn't have the word ambition in my dictionary. I was never ambitious. I really didn't want to do anything at all. Trust me, I'm really telling the truth. And for me to realize that I could do something, or I wanted to do something, it was my family. I never really thought I would, be doing business or would be launching my own brand, or, even when this influencing came ahead, even this didn't come from inside. I think that was, set by a lot of other people in my family, of course. I have major support system. Unlike Prerna, had to go through a lot of hardships initially. Me, I stay in a joint family, and my husband is very supportive. My in-laws are very supportive. I have my mother. I have a lot of, like I spoke to Jitesh some time ago, and he's like, it takes a village to bring up a child. it literally took up a village to, like bring up my kids here. So it has been a journey, and I have been learning a lot while, in it. And my push has been my husband. He's pushed me a lot. I really never thought I could, getting married. I got married very early. I got married at 20. That's a very young age, to like, you don't even know what you want to do, what you want to, like, I just graduated and I got married. So I would give him like a lot of credits for that, because obviously, he told me, you should come up, your dressing sense is amazing, you have so much experience, because my mother was a designer. So, I've been in clothes since at the age of 13. So, I've been in clothes, and I've learned a lot practically and theoretically. So my journey has been unlike that. I still have a lot of support at home. My kids are growing up, but yes, I've always been a guardian for my kids. So I'm taking it really slow. I'm a very paranoid mother. I live in constant fear when it comes to my kids. And, the thought of them being girls is always like haunting me. So I'm taking my journey very slow and steady, so that, let them grow up a little, each to its own, you always have your own pace. So
I mean, the fact that you mentioned and you've lauded your husband, all the praises that you're throwing at him right now, that he's been the kind of support that is, I think it works both ways, right? Husbands do depend on the wives who are the stronger one in the relationship, to really, ensure that they give the first round of cover to the children, and we'll support from outside. But in all honesty, it's the fathers who are always scared more that whether they'll be able to do a good job or not. So I did mention to you all that I'm blessed with 2 boys myself, and it's just a fabulous experience in every possible way. And for the people who've tuned in now, or for the people who've come in on Coffee and Childhood for the first time, I'd like to tell you, and anyone who's going to watch this video later, that our sessions are not only about the professional or the profession of the panelist who's there. It's more celebrating the parent and talking to other parents as parent, because rarely parents are asked what is it that you're doing which is different, rather than it being the other way, where you're just consuming that as parent you should do this and you should do that. So I think people are going to take a lot of things from here. I want to quickly move on to a question which most of our panelists have brought up, and it'll be an interesting take on it. It's something which is on gender neutrality and parenting, keeping gender neutrality in mind. You have 2 sons. How do you see that as a trend? What have you done differently, or you've come across something very differently within your social circles or otherwise, and you can tell and share with our audience about gender neutrality, your thought, and what have you done with your children to ensure that that stays, or something that you came about? So Ginny, you want to go first on it?
It's okay, anyone can. Let us speak about our boys first.
Okay.
So basically, I mean, if you ask me, gender neutrality is a really slightly new concept for me as well. But as such, we've never, of course, luckily or unluckily, we have more boys in my family now than girls. But my brother-in-law has 2 girls. So yes, we've never kind of questioned their choices of clothes, or what do I say, of their dressing sense, or of their life's choices. Because honestly, what I teach my boys is that whatever you want to do, it's fine. The one thing you have to remember is that always respect the person, okay, irrespective of what gender the person is. And of course, kids being born and around a woman who's a feminist, they understand this, that if they say anything which is not even at the age of 6, and I think when they were 6 and 10, they knew that if they said anything which kind of went against my value system, they would be, taken on the side and given a lecture. So, in fact, I think, so I have 2 boys and my husband, so full of men around me. And there was a time when my brother and my brother-in-law used to stay with me. So I was and my father-in-law. So there were so many men around me, and I was the only woman, and my helps were there. So, they used to trudge very carefully that we should not kind of offend the women in the house in any way, because they knew that so they're in bigger numbers, they're not strong when it comes to ideas. But having said that, I have a friend who's raising her daughters to be gender neutral. She's also an influencer, and I think it's absolutely something which is individual to a parent on how you want to raise your kids. Okay, the main thing which I feel, Ritesh, whether you raise them to be gender neutral or if you raise them without telling these concepts also, the main thing is that you need to know that everybody is equal, irrespective of their what do I say, where they were born, what are their choices, what do they wear, what do their life choices are, what do they want to eat or go or do. So that's the main thing, that kids, I believe, more than gender neutrality, for me, I would say I want to raise kids that believe in equality and believe in being kind. That's my main agenda, more than so I would say I'm not a parent who's focused more on that concept. I'm focused more on raising happy kids who are kind. That's more my agenda.
Fair enough. Ginny, you wanna go at that?
Yeah, sure. So Prerna, we need mothers like you, obviously, like feminist mothers raising boys, because I think we need to teach our sons to respect our women, seeing the scenario outside.
So this is what I want to say, that it's not, so, till a point I used to say sons to respect women. I would want to say that, everybody to respect everybody, irrespective of what because, what is happening today, I'll tell you why I mention this, because what is happening today is sometimes, the boys are told so much, respect the women, don't say anything to the women, you cannot, do this to the women, so much so that I'm seeing a different trend altogether. I'm seeing more women, girls who are, who can talk and be opinionated, whereas boys who become submissive. So I don't think either of the trends is good. It should be a balance, We have to empower the boy and the girl in the right way. Please continue. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, I don't think there's a lot of difference between raising boys and girls. We're raising kids in general. The only thing I personally have gone through is that my elder one is very timid, and like she said, she's very submissive. She's very timid. So I feel a little worried about her. She's not opening up with me. So it's a little scary that is she talking to someone and not telling me about it. You know how mothers think, and that's the only thing I have faced having girls, that I get a little worried, a little stressed, a little paranoid, on leaving them anywhere or sending them. So we have certain rules only for their safety. There's nothing to do with, I haven't seen any gender discrimination or anything biased in the education system or anything like that. I don't think it's there at all. So I don't feel, other than me being a little scared to leave them alone, or, just those little factors that come in, that's the only difference I think it is. But I don't think there's any difference being
again, sorry, please.
Yeah, sure, please.
Yeah, so again, the concept gender neutrality is that you raise children with them not knowing what their gender is, right?
Exactly.
So I honestly, as I said, when my kids were growing up or when I was growing up, I didn't come across this concept, and I still today, it just is it's not something that I feel is important, right? If they want to, if tomorrow my child comes up and says, I want to have like a gender change, or I think I'm a gay or anything, I think I will just have a chat about it, and I want them to be that confident to be able to come to me and tell me this. That's more important. And I think while respect to people who are raising their kids to be gender neutral, I think it's okay. I like being a woman, and maybe the boys like being their gender. It's kind of an identification, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with either, as I said, as long as you're able to come to me and tell me what is it that is in your mind.
So, why this question is also posed is because most of the people who are coming on the platform, they are parents to very, very young children. And this is a common question because most of them have so many people around them who would go by the traditional way of talking to kids. If the kid is crying, are you a girl? If the kind of toys and things are that. So it becomes so difficult. And in our case itself, both my boys, they have very long hair because we're not going to cut their hair till the age of 5 because of religious reasons. But at the same time, when someone calls them a girl, or they taunt them in some way, and in a friendly way, we're not out there in the defensive that why did you call him a girl? You're not a girl, you're not a boy. I think it's about the environment which is being created while parenting is being done. And parenting is not no more restricted only to the mother and father. It's about the people around you. It could be the uncle and aunts, it could be the in-laws, it could be everyone else who need to be in line with what your value system is, what you are imparting with them. Sometimes difficult to control that, but it is becoming a part of it. And the faster we make our ecosystem attuned with how are you raising your children and certain things, and make them aware about it, I think people are responding to it well. And it's a trend. I think people are talking about it now, and they're happy to talk about it. So wonderful. Coming back to the next topic, unlike the other spaces we are directly jumping onto online and offline, I want to typically talk about a trend which people are seeing, and people want to know more about, and just want to know your thoughts about it very briefly. The trend of homeschooling. We all do it at some level, and we're imparting what we have as a value system to our children. But homeschooling on its own requires a certain process to it. So generally your thoughts about homeschooling, what do you think about it? Are you seeing people adapting to homeschooling or talking about it and want to know more about it? If we can have a thought from both the panelists, please.
Ginny, go ahead.
Ginny, you want to go for that?
Firstly, I am a very bad teacher. So if you're going to ask me about, like, I can learn, I can take in knowledge, but then when I have to teach kids, I don't have the patience. I don't know how to go about it. So when I talk about, I'm not very comfortable with the whole idea of homeschooling, because I personally feel my daughter needs to, have that physical, she needs to go to school, because it's not only about the books and the knowledge, but the overall experience. When they go to school, they tend to talk to other kids, the teachers. So I feel socially also they grow a lot. So for me, this is my opinion, because my daughter is really timid, so I want her to, be a little social. Other than that, at home, she's the system that has been brought up by our school is very good. They're learning, it's fine. Education-wise, it's all okay. But it's need of the hour, so it's okay. But I wouldn't want to do it forever, or I wouldn't really be interested in letting them sit at home and study, because I feel, and my younger one is 3, so for her it's impossible. She doesn't sit on the laptop. For her, it's absolutely zero. She doesn't want to do it at the time I tell her to do it. So she doesn't understand the concept at all. My elder one is dealing with it really well. She sits on her laptop, she studies, and then I take her revision or whatever. It's fine. She does it on her own. I'm not a very pushy parent, so I just let her be for a while. But I'm not, in the longer run, to tell me to get into this concept, I wouldn't like it that way. I think going to school, or the whole education system, is really nice. The way they go to school, they have a routine, they have discipline, they're not always around you. So the value I'm going to put into her is obviously going to be there, but we need other values as well. So, when they go out, they get that kind of exposure. I think they tend to grow a little more, they get out of the shell. So I guess, it's the need of the hour. It's okay, but not for the longer term.
Fair enough. That's a viewpoint for sure. Yes, friend.
Yeah, so I agree with Ginny completely that, I'm also not I'm not very good at homeschooling. So honestly, I think I am, when it comes to teaching them, yes, when they have exams, they have tests, I always sit with them and do it. But if you tell me to do it every day, and teach them all on my own, that's not going to work, because I did it when they were really young. Now I've made them capable enough to do their own studies. But I think a discipline that the online schooling has brought is good, because first of all, the first few months for us was difficult. The schools were shut and the kids couldn't go out. So they were, it was so unnatural for them. So once the schools have started, they're connecting with their peers and teachers, and it's a routine that has come in. So they're feeling better. But as Ginny said, I would not want it as a forever trend, because first of all, too much of screen time is happening, because all their what do I say, peer talks happen. Like my elder one is 14, so after school, after a few hours, he wants to connect with his friends on WhatsApp, or they want to play games together. And the only way they now can do that is on their phone, right? So it's all device time. And then their other entertainment mode is again TV or watching a movie, because there's nothing much they can do. Even if they have extracurricular classes, that also is happening on the screen. So, so much of screen time for kids at any age is not good, and obviously the younger ones is even worse. As she said, they don't sit. And I have friends on my floor whose kids are 6 years old, and now, their school gives them homeworks. They'll say, you have to teach them this yoga step, but then she has to sit with them and do that yoga step and teach. She has to Google, then do it, then or make this project, so she has to sit with them. So it's taking, apart from the fact that you don't have help at home and you have to do everything, and then you have to do this also, it is too much of pressure also on the parents. And of course, the really young ones don't even understand the concept of online schooling. So for them, it's absolutely, I feel, in no way beneficial. Mine are still older, 9, 14, so they do it on their own. But I am not very happy with so much of screen time. So I would obviously want them to go back to school. But again, in the current scenario with the fear and the risk, I don't want to send them. So I will wait my time, and we'll go on like this. But another thing that she mentioned is, this was, when they used to go to school, I used to get time to do my work, and I had my me time. All that has also been taken away. So I would want that back as well.
So, the reason why I brought this up, and we try to understand more from the other panelists also in the past, we came across a parent, and I was mentioning this on the call also, that she runs her own event management company, and she's homeschooling her daughter. She's a single mother. She spoke about the process within our Indian education system, that you need to officially take permission to homeschool your child, so that they are then eventually, when they go to, for higher studies and all, it is at par with everything. Obviously the kind of dedication which is required. But her reason of doing that was at a very early age, because the parents were going through tough times, and there was separation within the family. The child was subject to a lot of things which is happening in school, which is kept at par. So for example, they were talking about, when they were teaching, that, oh, on a Sunday, what do you do with your family? Mama does this, Papa does this, but there's no Papa. So it was playing on her mind so much that she became from a very active kid to a very, very dormant child. And that started affecting her, entire learning capacity and a whole lot of things, which was noticed. And then she took this bold decision of actually removing her out of that system. She also mentioned on our Coffee Childhood also, that the hardships were different, but she asked the child that, does she want, when the child had made a 20-page written and a drawn thing, why she doesn't want to go to school, and at the age of 6. So for her, probably it was something that worked. And also to bring out the hardships for the people who are listening also, that I think our society is tuned to, when they meet a child, hi, how old are you? What's your name? Which school do you go to? So if you don't go to a school, you don't have that validation from people. So, it's a constant request from us to parents, other parents and others. When you are addressing a child, talk to a child as a child. Don't put them into buckets or categories and things like that. Do you go to a school? Do you do this? You're a boy, you got hurt, and things like that. So, I mean, that's a constant endeavor. We hope that that design change takes place in our thought, in our space. But homeschooling is something that we've seen. There are thousands of parents who are making applications on a regular basis, because primarily from the economic perspective, because there is a stay-at-home mother or a stay-at-home dad. Second of all, they feel the level of education that may be available in their respective cities may not be the best and the most appropriate one, which will lead to more tuitions and costs otherwise. And that brings thought to my head that we're so privileged. We're so, happy with the kind of ecosystem, with the kind of financial backing that we have, that we can afford the good schools, we can afford to talk to our kids, address their issues, and ensure that it goes in the right direction. So that's where the homeschooling part comes from. And where we at Kids OK Please want to ensure that anyone who wants to take that step should not be worried about it. But I concur with both the panelists that it means giving away crucial years of your life dedicated to your child's growth, whereas you have an alternative to go to school. And there are good schools, there are good teachers, and there are good things to be done.
I think it's a very nice thing that you said. I think that's a takeaway for people, that not to bucket a child, in categories, and you have no idea what kind of mental pressure a child can be put into. Yeah. So
Absolutely. They sing well. Well, like, wow, what a good singer. And if they're not singing well, stop shouting. I mean,
we don't even think twice before,
yes,
saying stuff. Yeah, which is so
yes.
true.
Because the kids, then they stay with that mental image that, hey, this is the one who said this. They became judgmental about me. As adults, I think we were able to discard ourselves from that and move on. With kids, it leaves a dark impression on them, and we be very careful about that. So always keeping a happy environment around our kids. Moving on, what I want to know is that which is your, I mean, the kind of work that you all are doing. You're running your own company now, and coincidentally, both of you all belong somewhere to the industry, which is the fashion industry, so to say, for you in the past and for you now. Your take on the fashion for children, and I'm plugging this question in only from the perspective of not looking at those celebrity children that people talk about. We already have a question from someone, so I'm going to ask those questions, take those questions towards the end, the Q&A. Audiences, you can keep your questions ready. I want to know about it from your end, that in India, what's the fashion space for children? How much is it growing? And where do you see it going? And the reason why I'm asking you this is, while I was working on setting up the Kids OK Please mobile application, we came across several kid brands which are e-commerce brands, and you will find clothes which are as normal as a regular piece of cloth should be, or the normal clothes should be for children. We also found something which were extremely expensive, branded, and parents don't mind spending on that also, because they want their children to have a certain experience. They want their children to look in a certain way. So what's your initial thought about, is there some pressure from parents for their children to look good at all point of time, and are they investing a lot in fashion, so to say, and not in a bad way necessarily? It's good, but what is your take on it?
Ginny, you are the expert.
It's just that I have girls, so dressing them up has been obviously for girls it's a lot more than boys. There's a lot more. There are hair accessories, there are different kind of trends that girls can follow, and me being in this, I'm a little careful about what I make my kids wear. But yes, I'm not doing it overboard. Now, as you said about the fashion for kids, my elder one was really chubby and really cute and very like a picture poster baby kind. So I got a lot of offers for her at that time. But I don't, tell her to for a brand or get into ads. A lot of people suggested I should try that. But like I told you, she was a little timid since, her early days. She was really scared of other people, strangers. So I never pushed her to be, in constantly in front of someone's eye. She still doesn't like it, to be really in someone's eye or be the center of attraction and attention. She doesn't want anyone to notice her around, basically. She likes her comfort zone. So when it comes to fashion, I like dressing her up. I think somewhere she also understands fashion now, because staying with me, she's a little, okay, this looks good or this doesn't. But I don't give it a lot of importance, frankly. I don't want her to be exposed to too much of what I'm doing at such an early age, because it's her innocent days. So, I just dress her up when it's important, but I don't put it, it took me a lot of years to be in the public eye. I wasn't very comfortable about opening up my page for, unknown people to start following me. I wasn't very comfortable with that thought earlier. So for my kids, I'm not very comfortable. I don't put up too much yet. I'm not saying I won't, but it's, taking some time. I just put up stories. I'm very scared to put up their posts, and for various reasons. There's nothing wrong in doing that. It's just each to its own. So when it comes to fashion, yes, I'm inclined towards it. I make them wear fashionable clothes, but I don't see the need to spend unnecessarily, because they tend up, gets smaller and, you know, they grow out of it. So I'm
Yeah.
not really particular about it. I don't focus too much on it, but it is there somewhere. You know, being in that profession, it is there somewhere. Being girls, I do take a lot of care of their appearance when they have to go out. Yeah, they do. Right now, they're in their pajamas because we're at home. So we're just repeating all the clothes that we have. There is no new shopping because there's a lot at home and they're not doing anything. So I think they're taking it easy for now.
Yeah, so I think it's important. You know, one thing about what I'll say is that you need to look good to, I mean, sometimes you need to look, sorry, to feel good, you need to look good, right? And or you know, be good at something. So it's, you can associate it anyways. And you know, I mean, now the thing is, there are a lot of these fashion shows that happen, the kids fashion show. Now those are the kind of things you should not put your kids into, you know, because that's like putting too much of pressure on it. Or, you know, you walk in a certain way, you talk in a certain way, you present yourself in a certain way. That much I don't think kids need to be exposed to, so I'm not in favor of that. But looking good, dressing up well gives you a little bit of confidence, a little bit of presentation. So yes, having said that, I have two boys, and my younger one still likes to dress up. My elder one doesn't like to dress up. He doesn't let me shop anything for him. So two different people, two different personalities. I let them be. Because honestly, I think it's more important that you dress as per your individuality and what is your comfort zone more than anything else. If I had girls, I would be dressing them up for sure. And what you said about, so you should tell them that, you know, this, if you dress like this, then, you know, it's nice to be presentable. That's all I would say. I mean, at home you can wear anything you want, but when you go out, be presentable. That would be my only call. And
So,
of course,
sorry, do you as parents, sorry to cut you. What I'm saying is, do you as parents see other parents put a lot of pressure on their children? And this is an extension of what I'm asking, that, you know, you should behave this way, you should do this, which is common etiquettes. Etiquettes are fine. I think that should be a part of the entire bit. But have you all noticed this at a large level where there is a lot of push on fashion as such? I guess it's pretty standardized. Every parent tries to, you know, do the best that they can in terms of providing. But do you see that at all, Prerna?
don't see that. I mean, okay, maybe I'm with the right kind of people, so I haven't seen people pushing, but the kids themselves are very aware today, honestly. And I have, you know, a lot of preteens and teens around me. So, you know, they like to dress up in a certain way. But I think when I was growing up, I was also, you know, thinking that this, what I'm wearing is, you know, in trend. So
Yeah.
it's the same thing, right? And today the only
Yes.
difference is that they have a Google and they have an Instagram to see what is, you know, people who are their peers and influencers wearing, right? So
Yes.
for them, the trends come faster.
Yeah.
And you were saying that the brands are not there. I feel there are lots of brands. It depends, and there are a lot of local brands which are doing very specialized, customized products. So I have
Yes.
someone, a friend who does this products, and she, like, the first time I saw something was really nice. So I asked her, you know, how much is it? And she said 20,000. And I was like, I won't spend up 20,000 for my kid. You know, even if it's a, you know, one time wear or two time wear, I'm not going to spend that. I don't feel, as Ginny said, though, even though she is designing dresses herself, that I feel kids don't need that kind of, you know, unless, of course, you know, you want always your kids to wear designers. So I see influencers who have kids who are wearing only Dior and Gucci and Prada kind of, you know, clothing, which is fine if you can afford it. If you, it's a lifestyle that you have managed and you think nothing about it, it's okay. In my case, I don't feel, you know, while I might go and buy myself something like that, I don't think I would invest it for my kid, because honestly, right now, I would like them to focus on, you know, growing up as normally as possible.
And now the larger pertinent question, which I know that you all have already answered, online versus, you know, the school part. I think the audiences have picked that up from your previous answers, that too much of screen time is an issue, and it is not going to continue. However, parents will have to play that additional role of now teaching as well. and keeping the children in that momentum of learning. The learning should not stop, even if there's a 4 month, constant gap which has been there. So how do you bring them back? Those are going to be some challenges. These are the kind of things that have come to us also in our previous forums, that how do you put the child back into the mindset that it's going to be school, you got to learn, there's going to be an exam, and a whole lot of other things. So those challenges are there, which aptly you all have identified and shared previously in some of your answers, that no limited screen time if possible, and if they are away, there is some me time available for the mothers and the parents who are actually managing children in the larger bit. However, if there is a thought on online, do you see online education becoming a part of how the normal education would be, where out of the 7 days, where 2 days were anyways holiday, 5 days was schooling, they'll bring it down to maybe 3 days now, or they may bring it down to piecemeal because the number of students in a class need to reduce. There are some reports which have been put up that if there were 40 students, you let 20 students come on every alternate day, and that session be done online for them to consume from home. And the balanced students who are coming the next day are going to see the new class, but in physical space with the teacher. So that's the kind of suggestions that are coming through. Any take on that? Online, do you think will continue, or do you think we'll go back to the normal education space which is there, or you feel that the subscription model like Byju's and others are here to stay, and people will adapt to it? Yeah.
No, so I think that it's very important to go back to regular schooling once things are all okay. And I'm not saying now or in a month. I'm saying even if it's 6 months later, it is important, because the way a child learns through being with peers and being in an environment and not sitting in front of the screen is very different from what in a closed house in one room on a screen he learn. He's interacting virtually with people, and they will forget to interact socially, and it's so social interaction is so important for a growing child, even for adults, right? It's very important for growth. So yes, we have to look at schooling, but this idea of 3 days a week or alternate days for education with lesser number of students is a good idea if the teachers are not being able to manage, or if they feel there's too much screen time and they want to reduce it. So it depends from class to class. So like for my younger one, they have 3 hours of school in which they get 2 breaks. One is a 30-minute break and one is a 15-minute break. Okay, so it's practically 2 hours 15 minutes of schooling, which is absolutely okay in 4th grade. I think I don't need him to take a break every day. That's enough, and it happens in the morning and finishes by morning, and then he has the whole day free to himself, and I think that's enough to recuperate. Okay, now my elder one on the other hand has 5.5 6 hours of school. They have very short breaks because he's in grade 9, so now the pressure on grade 9 onwards is a little bit too much, because they're trying to finish the syllabus. There's board exams that they plan to do, and we're all hoping by next year we will go back to regular schooling. So the board exams and all, and yesterday only there was this news where they have reduced the syllabus by 25% for grade 9th and 10th, which is a great thing that which I had really, I had written about it also in my blog recently, that they need to do that, because this is not regular. And if they don't do that, there's too much pressure being built. If you think that online schooling can replace regular schooling and you'll be able to finish all your syllabus, what about science experiments you do? How much will you be able to do? What if there is a mishap? There's so much. If you go into thinking on how different regular versus online schooling is, I would definitely want, I will obviously right now, I definitely can't send my child for another few months till I am assured that there is a vaccine and my child is safe. I'm okay to do this. But yes, I would definitely want the number of school hours for older kids to reduce. 5.5 6 hours, uske baad mein there is some extracurricular activity happening where they are doing again online, and this is also from school. Apart from then then kids were having tuitions, so again that's online. There's just too much online happening for older kids, so that's something I would definitely want to reduce. But for that the board has to take a decision. And I think 25% is a good start.
Before we take the audience question, and very quickly, I know that we spent almost 57 minutes in, discussing this, and time has just flown by. This is something that we want to know. We've had very limited interaction. My team has been interacting with you. What to you is Kids Okay Please? What do you think? If there's a thought that comes in your mind about Kids Okay Please, something that you want to mention, something that came to your mind when you first interacted with my team, or otherwise.
I think what I thought when I first, before I even talked to you, when Kids Okay Please was like, it was more about let's put the kids in the right space, Kids Okay Please. So that's the first thought that came. And I think when you just mentioned that, don't put kids in a bracket and say the right things to the kids, I think kind of got reiterated. So yes, I think that is what I would say for that.
And Ginny,
I think the name suggests that, let kids be kids, we're trying to push them to grow up a little faster with so much of exposure. Kids are growing up really fast. And being a mother, I like taking it very slow for them. This time is never going to come back for them. So
Absolutely.
I think your thing about Kids Okay Please, let them just be kids and do what kids are supposed to be doing. So, that's the first thought that came into my mind when I saw it. And I think you are pretty much on the same track. You're doing stuff for kids. So yeah, that's all.
I mean, just taking maybe 10 seconds of the airtime now, and just to tell you that it will be the mobile application that it will be later in the year whenever this opens up. And it's going to be like how parenting today is not incomplete without having a nanny around for the growing years. This is going to be a tool which is required for parents to plan what they should be doing with their children and giving them marvelous childhoods. So Kids Okay Please is welcoming them to the world of marvelous childhoods. And our tagline also states they'll love you for it. I mean, if you do that for your children, it's going to make a lot of sense. And we want to change the real estate around us to become more child friendly. That's a larger mission. Anyways, put that with how to keep toddler interact with the peers since the class are not online. So if there are toddlers or younger children, or children for that matter of any age, since their classes are not happening online, how do you help them interact with other peers without also ensuring that there is limited screen time which is there? So any thoughts on that, or you feel that screen time is the only way out as of today? You really cannot physically meet with each other.
There is really me handling a toddler almost, she's 3 years old. There's really no solution to that. Even, I feel even the virtual experience isn't very great for them. Everyone's dealing with their issues in this pandemic, but for the younger ones, I think there's no solution. The physical presence of, peers or your friends is just something very different. So she's handling it in the way that she has a lot of members in the house. So she's playing with her elder sister, or, just playing with my extended family next door. So they're like my neighbors. So just both of them of the same age. So that's been helping my daughter keep sane. So she plays with her in the evenings, and, she pretty much is adapted since she doesn't know too much about birthday parties or other friends. So she's still a little raw at that. But I think there's no really big solution. You just have to keep your kids entertained with various activities at home and pray for this to just get better. There's nothing else.
Okay. I would say that you can think of something. There are two things I would say to this. You can think of something called quarantining. Okay, so while quarantine is you being separated from the rest of the world, quarantining is you can decide on one family that is important to you, has young kids of your age, and you make sure you make a pact with them that they will be safe. They will do safe practices. You will do, and once in a week or once in 2 weeks, you will let the children meet. And because as you said, physical interaction is very important, so you can do that. A lot of people now in US and all have started doing it. Even in India, people have started doing quarantining, because how much can you stay away from social interaction? Even as adults, forget toddlers. Toddlers needed more, but even as adults, you need to talk to people, and it's good for your own mental health. But of course, you need to be very comfortable with the family that you want to quarantine with. Secondly, the younger kids you're very, very, what do I say? They need a lot of sensory play. For them, everything is touch, feel, and experience. So they will probably not be able to express how they're feeling. So give them a lot of colors, let them color, let them do messy thing, give them sand, to play with. What is that particular sand called? I forgot. Which doesn't really mess.
Kinetics
Kinetic
sand.
sand, yes.
Yeah.
So do that. A lot of these squishy balls and lots. So a lot of sensory items, right? And you get them online. You can always Google them. Those kind of things you let your toddler play. That will help her or him take away angst. Okay. So it's called play therapy, basically. I'm certified again in play therapy, so I'm giving you a little bit of that. I don't practice play therapy, but I've done a course in it. So, these kind of things help a toddler deal with a lot of emotions that he or she is going through. And as they were saying, they will not be able to express it, but it will help them get rid of those emotions.
Fantastic. So I think if there is any other question, you all can post it now, or else I think we're going to be sharing the tags of their respective blogs and Insta handles on our page, so the audience can ask them and reach out to Prerna and Ginny both, and converse with them. But I think this has been fabulous 60 minutes in getting to know both of you all, understanding you all as parents. And I think the audience, whenever they get to see this on Facebook or YouTube, it'll be wonderful. And I'm sure that they have a lot of things to take away from this. Someone has asked, can you please let me know the name of the play therapy page, if there is a page that you have that you've started or something that you would recommend that they can.
I haven't started a page. As I said, I'm certified in it. I don't practice it, but of course the basics I know, so I'm just mentioning it to you. You can Google play therapy. There are a lot of play therapists in India. If you want to get in touch with someone, you can just DM me. I will let you know. It's people who are practicing play therapy.
So coincidentally, yesterday I was interviewing someone on Kids OK Please Live who does art therapy, and they did give some very, very good solutions. But I like some of these points that you mentioned, that that one family and the expression that children can go, whether it's through art or through play. I think it'll be wonderful. It'll help us connect better with the children also. So with that, I think we can now officially close Coffee and Childhood for today. Thank you so much once again for taking time out on a Saturday, talking to us, talking to the people at Kids OK Please. And may you have a wonderful week ahead. And good luck with both your respective entrepreneurial ventures that are there.
Thank you so much, Ritesh, for having us. Lovely meeting you, Ginny.
Yeah, same here. It was lovely meeting you, and I guess we can take it further now since we know each other. And thank you, Ritesh, for having us and having me. And it was lovely talking to you and sharing our experiences.
Thank you. Thank you once again.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.